Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November Southern Fried DNN User Group meeting. We have a great discussion ahead of us tonight as we have an exciting panel of guests ready to talk all things DNN and the future of DNN and what we can look forward to here in 2025. Our primary topic for the night is a panel discussion utilizing the DNN CMS in 2024. It'll be a review of DNN strengths, features, and again, questions for 2025. We will do an introduction for our panel in just a few moments, but we'll begin tonight's Southern Fried User Group meeting as we do all meetings, talking a little bit about community buzz and the things that we know in the community and events and blog posts and releases. So let's just dive right into that. We had an update posted just a few days ago that there's a newer release version for DNN version 9.13.6 that follows that release of 9.13.5 that came out just a little bit before. So we were kind of advised to hold off on 9.13.5 and wait for this next release. Daniel, is that something you want to speak to for just a moment and just describe to folks? I know that we were going through these minor version numbers, and it's been a little while since we've had an advisory to wait for one, and I believe this is the one we were pointed to that was going to be coming out, right?
Yep. So 9.13.5 came out, and then it only happened on certain environments, but there was an issue with the version of .NET Framework. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, if you were on 5.7 nothing or 5.7, I don't know exactly what scenario because it didn't happen to me,
Right.
but it would fail to convert that to a string because it only had two digits instead of three, and that would make like everything else around it explode. So we put a known issue on 9.13.5, and 9.13.6 fixes that, plus a couple dependency updates. So it's a pretty small release that we got out quick, so people don't get into trouble with 9.13.5.
Well, that's perfect, and that's what frequent releases is about: making improvements, making additions, and where we need to, seeing those corrections go out uh, very quickly through that process. So I think that's a success. Also posted was a note that the DNN Connect 2025 event has been announced for Spain. And they have put out their announcement or their request for call for speakers. So if the DNN Connect conference, the one across the pond, is your speed, then this is your chance to jump in there and make suggestions for sessions and step up to both speak and do a call for sponsors for that event. I don't know if they still do, but I enjoyed the way that they've done sponsors in the past for not only the conference but for specific things about the conference, parties and venues to be in. So it's an opportunity for you to be a sponsor and jump in to help support that DNN Connect in Spain 2025.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm glad you worded that like that. If you don't mind me chiming in,
Please.
they have kind of changed a bit starting last year on how they do sponsor packages. Just to kind of make it a little more interesting like that, and it's really kind of fun the
It
way that
is
they do
fun.
it. There's different things, and I think that has been done in the past with some of the DNN Summit events. So they probably pulled a little bit of ideas and inspiration from that. But
Mhm.
last year, for an example, we sponsored the bar. So it was the MB Quick Bar. It was kind of fun,
Yeah.
just to have something little like that in addition to the regular sponsorship. So there's lots of opportunities for anybody that wants to sponsor in a different kind of way. I would encourage doing that.
Yeah. Excellent. Then staying right within the zone of conferences, it's a good point for us to announce and remind to folks that the DNN Summit 2025, it is in the very beginning of February. February the 3rd and the 4th will be held both online, virtual, and in person. So this is our first hybrid event. We have not been in person since 2020 Florida. So right before COVID, we were in person in Florida. And then since then, it's been online only. And this year is going to be hybrid. So you can purchase tickets to join the Hop In online conference, just as you have for the past several years. But then we also have the option to be in person in Las Vegas and attend the event and get to see everyone, network, and conference and talk with everyone just like we always love doing in person. The early bird pricing.
Hey, Ryan, before you say what you're getting ready to say, would you mind refreshing your page and then say what you're going to say?
Let's.
Thanks, Dave.
You are welcome, Mitch.
Well, Ryan is doing his refresh.
There you go.
I just want to say, yes, we have an early bird date. Yes, it is the 26th of November. Please, for our purposes, if you're going to come, try to register early. It would really help us out to make sure that future events are going to be possible. In-person events are far more expensive here in the US than what they are anywhere, in other places, just because of where we are. Registration numbers are trending okay, but more in person would be fantastic. And knowing more in person before, say, January would be really handy. So that's my plea, that regardless of early bird helping or not, please register. We would love to see you. It would be great to get the community and get everybody back together. For those here in the States, we haven't had something in, over 4 years. But please register early.
The thing that I was going to say there too is that we often see towards, because we've had the DNN Summit conference in roughly the same week or two of February for several years now. And we see a trend where people will wait till the very end of the year or do a lot of registration in January. And while that always continues to happen, where we see a large volume of registrations, especially government and small businesses doing their registrations, it would be wonderful if they can take the opportunity for the early bird, register now, or do that registration in December, because that does make a difference on what we're doing with the hotel space and with the opportunities we have there. So the sooner that we know a large volume of folks that we can plan for, then we can make some special things happen. If too you're still researching and learning about it, be sure to come to the website. You're going to see the current list of speakers and the sessions that have been scheduled out now, so that you can find out what you'd like to see. And a reminder too that whether you're in person or online, that all of the sessions are recorded. So when you have 2 sessions going on at the same time, one of the values of a ticket to DNN Summit is that you can watch those playback videos for all of the sessions for a full year after the event. So you can really make the most of being there in person, enjoying the moment, and then knowing that you won't miss anything. You can go back and watch all of those videos after the fact. Okay, so that's kind of wrapping up community-related topics. Without further ado, I'm going to move into the main topic for the night. We are doing a panel discussion. The topic is utilizing the DNN CMS in 2024. And this is a review of DNN strengths, features, and questions for 2025 and ahead for DNN. We're joined tonight by a panel of guests who are going to be answering questions and talking about DNN with us. To begin with, we're going to talk, I'm going to announce Mitch Sellers is joining us here tonight. There's a lot to say about Mitch, but I'll read from a couple of items in his bio because I like the way he phrased them. Mitch Sellers is a .NET and DNN developer. He's a DNN MVP. He's the leader of the DNN Technology Group. He's a 15 times Microsoft MVP and is the current sitting, get away from the controls here, the current sitting board of directors vice president for the .NET Foundation. Mitch manages Iowa Computer Gurus and has personally developed hundreds of successful websites, applications. He has been a teacher to many of DNN and the way to develop for DNN and the way to do things properly. And he's someone I'm proud to know from conventions, in person, online, and is always a thrill to talk with. Mitch, because you've done so much for DNN, I'm looking forward to those conversations tonight about what we can look forward to. We also have with us David Poindexter. David Poindexter, DNN MVP, DNN strategy lead, web and mobile app developer, DNN community fanatic. We know him here as co-chair for the Southern Fried DNN User Group. But you'll find you'll find Dave during the daytime at Envisionative. But we also know him fondly as DNN Dave from the videos and working sessions that he'll do for both not only promoting information about DNN, but also doing code hangouts and working and developing things. So as a DNN enthusiast, David has a lot of accolades for the things that he's done. We also know him for things he's contributed to the community, such as NV QuickSite and tool NV QuickSite and the theme, NV Quick theme. So there's a lot that DNN has, that David has put out into the DNN space, and we're glad to have him here talking tonight. Marco Avelorado is here with us, DNN integrator. He has joined the Southern Fried DNN User Group as an integrator, sharing his story about the things that he's done building with his company, Globalode, in Costa Rica. Is a digital marketing and web development company. And again, he shared many of his experiences with us in Southern Fried User Group meetings already. He has posted a few articles, or we've posted a few articles with those sessions that he's had, and he's bringing both a fresh voice and some wonderful examples of projects and success stories. And we're looking forward to talking with him tonight about those. So thank you everyone for joining us. And as we jump in, I will end that screen share so that we can have on screen the answers from folks as we're talking. I'm going to go through and kind of run through a series of questions that we have tonight for DNN in general. We know that there are DNN integrators, myself included, in that category. DNN integrators have been using DNN for all types of business, personal websites, government agency websites. There's a range of sizes of organizations using DNN. Developers starting off new projects in DNN, people inheriting older projects and updating and improving those projects. And I'll start off by asking a kind of an open-ended question and pass it to David to begin with. Why should someone in 2025 choose DNN and the DNN framework over anything else, in 2025 and forward?
Well, I mean, Ryan, I don't think it's necessarily because it works for everything or anything like that. But it's for us, it is stable, it is secure, it is proven. It's not new kid on the block, so I don't have to worry about things that have not been discovered yet, right? Doesn't mean that it's flawless. It means that it can be depended on, though. And I think that's probably the number one reason, the security in that, just for us, and then just the extensibility of the entire platform, the ability to do whatever we need to do. If it's not out of the box, then we can extend it and, take care of whatever business need is there. So I think it's appealing from that standpoint.
Marco, how about you? What do you think about that same question about choosing DNN for projects that you start with? I know it's something that you depend on a lot for your client websites.
Yes. Well, from our perspective, having tools that allow us to provide effective results and solutions that clients will immediately start using to get return of investment, it's critical for a lot of our customers, especially since we mostly develop content websites in order for clients to start selling, their services or goods on internet, they need something solid, something that they don't have to worry about. And for us, from our perspective, from the inside of the agency, well, it's a platform that it gives us the possibility and the space to focus on our clients and not worrying too much about maintenance, updates, attacks, and so on. So for us, it's more than a win-win situation, to be honest. So it's a great opportunity for people who, are trying to decide which platform they're going to use to build websites, to go over DNN and start experiencing all this good stuff that the platform has around, especially Ryan, the community and the people around it. Because, when we talk about social media with clients, for example, and they want us, to help them out, one thing that we always talk about is negative comments, how you have to reply to a negative comment and how you have to make that negative a business opportunity, right? So when you have a negative comment, you have to like be supportive and be there, because people who are going to visit your profile in the future will definitely would like to see what the business is going to do when it's not all good stuff, when it's something bad. And with DNN, when you need assistance, when you need help, when you need somebody to help you out with something about a module, about the platform itself, you can just go through any of the different channels, the community has, and there's always going to be somebody there to give you that first good impression of the community, because we're all, there's people behind it who's actually real, and they are going to help you out resolve whatever problem you're having. So having that certain that you have your backup, it's definitely a very solid point for you to make a decision and decide to use the DNN.
Marco, that's a great point. And a little later on in the list of items we're going to talk about, the variety of ways that you can reach out to the community to interact with people who are either able to help for support or can help improve and make changes to the system. You have an accessibility there that you just don't have in other systems. So that's a point we'll be coming back to. Excellent. Mitch, how about you? We'll pass the question to you as well, especially with the .NET framework. Starting off new projects within DNN and the .NET framework. Why choose this over anything else?
It's interesting. There's a lot of movement in the .NET community, and there's obviously the new shiny is everything .NET, as we're supposed to call it now, or .NET Core as it's more commonly known. And then we have .NET Framework, right? So DNN is based on .NET Framework, which is current version is 4.8.1. It is distributed with Windows. It is part of the operating system. .NET itself is rapidly moving with a major release every year. On even number years, it is a current release. So we just had .NET 9 released last week. On odd numbered years, then we get long-term support versions, which are valid for 3 years. So there's a lot of change. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of momentum. Your updates of .NET Core are done by the app developers. So with .NET Framework, we do get a little bit of stability. Some people can look at stability in a negative light and see it as stagnation. And it really just depends on what your primary goals are. Websites and applications that are being built for folks are typically there for the long haul. You are wanting to be able to be stable and consistent for a period of time. So the use of .NET Framework is still completely relevant. .NET Framework 4.8.1 has guaranteed support from Microsoft until 2033. As of right now, soon to be bumped out to 2035 with the next releases of the Windows operating system. So we have a long runway. We have a lot of ability to deliver. And for a lot of my customers, that stability, being able to build and implement and not have to focus as much on staying current all of the time, is a real critical reason to make a choice for DNN and something based on .NET Framework over .NET Core. We work a lot with .NET Core, but the thing you have to realize is you have to have a commitment, a real solid commitment to continual upgrades if you want to get to that point and you want to be able to really drive forward all of the time. And that isn't necessarily something that people want to do with what they're using a content management system for, or what they'd be using DNN for, if that makes sense.
Well, how about key strengths that kind of set DNN apart? You were describing, that platform, but how about scalability?
So, I mean, DNN platform, as David kind of mentioned earlier, right, is proven and has been around for a long time. So we've gone through all of the various modes of operation, from large scale sites with huge numbers of pages to large scale sites with huge numbers of users to large scale sites that have massive traffic, to the point of millions of visitors, an hour, to millions of users, to millions of pages of content. So the platform itself has been through the paces from a performance perspective, and with that stability in the platform, there's known ways to configure DNN. DNN works well in the cloud and can auto scale as reasonably well as a content management system can within a regional data center. So the use of auto scale, we have a number of community members that have DNN sites that are, in Azure, and they're set up with auto scaling. I know one person in particular has between 15 to 20 nodes serving their site at the same time during peak times of traffic, and everything works. So definitely you have some real good strength abilities in being able to scale out. Now, that doesn't necessarily come without validation of configuration and making sure that you're, set up correctly, but that's the same as any platform. If you throw things together and aren't looking at taking care and consideration to what you're doing, you may not be able to, immediately get there, but the resources are there. The documentation is there, and the community help is there to be able to push those boundaries as needed.
Well, so let's talk for a moment about, DNN being an open source .NET CMS, and let's talk a little bit about the .NET Foundation and relationships there. What's in the forefront for 2025 and later with DNN and for the platform? What's ahead?
So if you're talking specifically from a .NET Foundation perspective, I guess just want to make sure, so DNN platform, right, for those that aren't fully aware, is a member of the .NET Foundation, which means that the source code was contributed to the .NET Foundation, and then we, as the community, are managing it. The .NET Foundation provides us with a number of resources that we leverage, some of them a lot of the time, others as we need them, such as hosting infrastructure. So those of you that have downloaded our build artifacts or have made a contribution to the project have noticed that we have our automated build validations that's ran on Azure DevOps, which is all paid for by the .NET Foundation. The update service that we have that tells you about updates to the application, that's hosted by things provided by the .NET Foundation. And they also are there for us as a community for the other things that we might need. If we have a difficult situation with a contributor, they help make sure that the contributions that we receive we're legally allowed to receive, so that we don't get any type of possibility of having a, code dispute. The .NET Foundation, I've been on the board for about 18 months now, and we're finally starting to turn a corner with changing the emphasis of the .NET Foundation to be project-centric. So really trying to get the outreach into what might the .NET Foundation do to be able to better support the individual projects. They give us visibility, but we could do more. They give us some attention within the community. Every time we do a release, we can say, hey, include this in the newsletter. That lets us get out there. DNN is and has been in the top 10 most active .NET Foundation projects that are non-Microsoft almost every month in the past 3 years. And so we are out there. We're big and part of that community. I think there's a lot of good things to come going forward. You're going to see a lot of things come from the .NET Foundation in the next few months as we work to revamp and harden not only membership and how to be a member and what does the foundation do, but also ways to help support the foundation to thus support open source as well.
Hey, Mitch, they also support our meetup account.
Oh, yeah.
Very meetup. So that's a good thing.
And that
the pro,
fun fact, that's the most expensive thing that we pay for now.
I'm sure
for the foundation. And it is very expensive. We've done a lot of cost savings, a lot of cost cutting. We've actually slashed, since I've been on the board, we've slashed the budget, the operating budget of the .NET Foundation about 93%, which is good because now we're focusing on providing services like Meetup or legal advice services as necessary. We really hope that we don't have to do that very often, but that's what the .NET Foundation is there for as well. If there is a legal thing directly for project maintainers. And so there are regular meetings with the .NET Foundation as well, just for anybody here that is interested. There are regular meetings for project onboarding and a number of other things. I can get any information necessary, if people have questions along the way.
Well, not necessarily a direct tie-in with what you're describing there, but I'll often field the question of who owns the source code. When we say the DNN is open source, I'll still get questions from folks who ask who owns the source code of DNN and how is that managed? And the .NET Foundation is the answer there. You want to speak to that for just a moment, Mitch?
Yeah. So the source code for DNN platform has been contributed to the .NET Foundation. So the actual copyright notice that you would see on any of the source code files is .NET Foundation. Now, it is licensed under the MIT license, so any individual can make a derivative. The trademark name, DNN, that has been licensed to the .NET Foundation as well. So that name has protections and things for it. So the source code is out there, it's in the open, it's guaranteedly available. We are in GitHub, and so that information remains available. And it is the community. There's no commercial ownership in anything DNN platform. Now, it is worth noting that Evoke, which sometimes people confuse, which is the paid commercial edition. It was also known by names such as DNN Enterprise, DNN Professional. Am I missing any of them?
DNN Corp paid edition.
Yeah, DNN Corp paid edition. And then Evoke Content, Evoke Basic, and Evoke Engage are also 3 of the derivatives of that. That is a closed source product that is owned by Ignite Tech. The actual .NET Nuke Corp or .NET Nuke I think it's just .NET Nuke Inc. That company no longer exists. So Ignite Tech does own those rights. So anybody that's paying for the annual license for Evoke, that is closed source based on the open source community.
Well, kind of shifting gears into another topic that Marco mentioned at the beginning. He was talking a little bit about security and stability. So let's switch gears and talk a little bit about robust security features, vulnerability watch, improvements. I'll pass this to David to start off with. How does the DNN platform manage security?
That's a good question. So I guess it was about maybe about a year ago. Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong here, but somewhere along there, we decided to do a module on the DNN community website for the DNN Security Center. And so any kind of security bulletins that are associated with a particular given release would be published there. So you have a way of filtering those by the release of that. Now, this didn't exist before, but it was on dnnsoftware.com, right? So,
Right.
but we needed to have that a little bit more visible, for the active community, which is transitioning more towards dnncommunity.org over time. So we put that out there, and it's a little bit more controlled too. It's an open source project out there as well. So anytime there is one of those bulletins that goes with a release, that would get published there automatically, and people will be able to see that. So in general, that's where the kind of bulletins are handled. And when it goes beyond that, I don't know, maybe Mitch is a better person to talk about this, but kind of how security is handled on GitHub. We have a new method for that to happen in a more open way. So I don't know, Mitch, if you want to go into any detail about that.
Yeah, and this is a really important change that we are continuing to push out. So GitHub has released a whole slew of new tools for us to be able to receive and collaborate on security issues. There used to be an email address that folks would send messages to, and I would typically be the one to initially respond and then get with the rest of the approver group. But now if you go to GitHub and you go to report an issue, there's a question that says, hey, is this a security issue? And if there is, it immediately pushes you into a security response report area. What's nice about this is you can securely share any information that you might have about that security issue or the potential security issue, and it stays completely out of the public eye so that we don't have anything to worry about from a confidentiality perspective, a privacy perspective, or more importantly, a leak of what the vulnerability is or how to exploit it before a fix has been put in place. So it works out really well for us to be able to get that collaboration. And what's even better is, and we've had this happen a couple of times already with a security researcher and a community member, it opens up a completely private way to communicate, including an ability to make a pull request with changes to fix things. And so then we can collaborate on that, make sure that we have a good fix. And then it gives us as maintainers a fun little way to just merge that change in and kind of hide it amongst other things so that, it's not necessarily easy for somebody to go find it. And then we can manage it with the release notes process and, the fantastic community site features that David was talking about so that people are aware that it's out there, because we know that not everybody actually looks at GitHub. But that is now the central point. And it is worth noting that if anybody has that email address memorized, forget it. It does not go to anywhere that we can get access to.
What email address, Mitch?
Security at DNN Software.
No. What
goes away?
Address? Yeah.
It's important though. It does not exist. Because if you send an email there, it does not go anywhere. And that has been a problem. We've had a couple people that reported things and are like, nobody responded. Well, unfortunately, we don't control it.
But it no longer is.
Yeah, we don't control it. And that's the problem. Ignite Tech controls the .netnuke.com domain, and they control the email accounts associated to it. And so we do not have access to it. I'm working to try to do something with that, but I just, GitHub is the way to go. And now we're really clear,
especially with all the new features of it and what it means to you.
Yeah, so much better. And honestly, we get guidance from GitHub as well. If we have something that we aren't sure how to classify, there's actually tools built into that security response process where we can answer questions about what was discovered, and it will provide us recommendations on should this be a low severity, should this be a high or a critical severity issue, which is really helpful for us to stay consistent with what we're doing.
It's really nice from a code collaboration standpoint as well, because you can literally work in a private kind of way to collaborate with the reporter, if they're contributing code or something, that's not quite in line with what it needs to be quite yet. So it's really nice.
And it's a nice private, secure place that is not email. If you need to share credentials for something or something more private and stuff, it's really it's the place for managing that.
That's great.
Well, so we've talked about the topic of security and updates in general. I think that one of the major story points for all of DNN 9 and the improvements of the or the goals that were being worked on through all of DNN 9 really had a star focus on the Telerik controls and the Telerik DLLs that were involved. Mitch, you want to speak for just a moment more about the kind of current state of that? Because if we started out DNN 9 with Telerik as a focus, we certainly are finishing these higher version numbers of DNN 9 with a very different story about the current state of Telerik and the process that you go through for upgrade and removal.
Yes, absolutely. So the DNN platform used to distribute with a version of Telerik. That version of Telerik is known to have security vulnerabilities in it. And so it became an emphasis for us to try to get that eradicated from the platform. As part of that, in 9.8.0 and later, it is possible to remove Telerik and have DNN platform retain all functionality. Since then, at 9.8.0, you had to jump through a number of hoops on your own and follow a detailed set of instructions. Starting with 9.11.0 and later, there is a automated process that when you go and do an upgrade, if you use the upgrade wizard, it actually goes out and checks to see, are you using Telerik? If you are using, or is Telerik there? If it's there, are you using it? And if it's there and you're using it, it's going to give you a warning and it lets you know that, hey, you may have some compatibility issues in the future. You need to take a step back and think about this. And here's the things that you might want to go look at. If you don't have any usage, you can simply check a box to say, go ahead and remove this for me. And you do your upgrade just like you do normally. All references to Telerik then are removed and your installation is completely secured from anything Telerik related going forward. That's going to be the story for 9X. As we get into 10, we are going to make that process forced. And the idea behind this is that we do need to try to get to, a clean state, a stable state, a secure state within the platform. We are working through some scenarios to make sure that if you manually did something like you bought a Telerik license yourself and you upgraded, to making sure that we don't harm those installations. And we're still working out a little bit of those logistics. And also, what do we do if you have incompatible modules? There are a few community modules that are fairly popular that do not have support to run without Telerik yet. So we are still working to balance that as some of the final prep for 10.0 is just exactly how we're going to execute that process. And we'll make sure to have really strong release notes and details on the 10.0 release of where we are. The primary goal, and we've achieved this really since 9.8.0, is that if you do a new DNN installation, you are secure by default. You do not have Telerik. And we're trying to do everything we can to push the community when they do their updates to get Telerik out of there and get things secure, because it is
out of the
very
third-party
real
modules.
risk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, kind of touching on that story of DNN 9 forward, there's been a push and progress to remove legacy elements, to remove things which older versions of DNN were relying on and which were no longer being used by either the core or the majority of other modules and elements. Those legacy items were maintained for backwards compatibility, but as you move forward through 9, those items just keep coming out of that core. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that have impacted performance and resources in these latest updates. Mitch, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. We did dependency updates in 9, I believe it was 9.11 as well. And We got about a 40% across the board performance boost by simply updating to new versions of Petapoco, which is the underlying database infrastructure. It is the one thing when you move forward, you get a lot of things there. As we look forward to 10, I think it's really important to look at the things that David and Daniel have been doing with the theme and the base theme and some of the new theme features to really clean things up. David, Daniel, either you want to kind of touch on that a little bit with what you guys are doing with the base theme and default CSS and all of that stuff.
Hey,
So
Daniel, why don't you start?
I'll start from the bottom and then switch to David for the team. So basically, we are bringing CSS variables into DNN. So um, basically, that's a web standard, not a SAS, not something that needs to be compiled, way of having variables that you can consume anywhere. And that could be colors, that could be numbers, that could be the width of something, anything you would do in CSS, basically. So we're gonna have like a color system and a few customizations, well, maybe 15 properties or such, that can be consumed by either the team or by modules or anything that displays in DNN. So that will allow to have a base theme that will be customizable by just changing those values, and for all of DNN modules to match that brand colors and such, and any third party that wants to use this. So we're not enforcing developers to do it, but it's available. So if you want your third party extension to match the branding of the site, it's available to you. So that's the whole concept. Tied with that concept is DNN Elements, which is a library of reusable web components that are framework free, and they consume those CSS variables. So anywhere you can put HTML, it could be a web forms module, could be a SPA module, could be an MVC module, could be a too sexy view. Anywhere you could put a paragraph, basically, you can put those elements, and they are made to match the style of DNN and to be as close as possible to the element that would exist in HTML. So we have, for instance, a DNN button, and if you had an HTML button, you just replace it with the DNN button, and most of the properties are exactly the same with some added benefits. For instance, in the old DNN UI UX, we had confirm buttons that you would click and then accept yes, no, a modal, and then it performs the action. Or if you do no, it doesn't do anything. Well, that's in the DNN button. So you don't have to implement your own JavaScript and stuff. On the DNN community GitHub repository, there is a demo, and you can see all those components, and there's probably more coming every time we have a need for that. So in DNN 10, this will be present in two modules. One is the resource manager, which already exists in 9, by the way, so it's using this, but the colors are not, we don't have a UI to customize those colors. And what's coming in 10, we can have a module to manage that. And I can even potentially share that as a very, very early preview. Do I have that at hand? Yes, I have this at hand. Let me just move it here, share screen. And that would be this screen. So basically in the persona bar, well, is my screen share working?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Oh, I don't have the green border, strange. So in the persona bar on top of themes, we can have styles, and this doesn't replace a theme. It's just colors and borders and opacities and font size, and do you want your controls like rounded or more squarish, so on and so forth. And every single color in that system will have shades. So you have three. You have your normal, the light, the dark, and a color that contrasts over this. So, for instance, the primary here, the primary color. So all the buttons that would be primary, they're going to use this kind of pattern, and they will be rounded or square according to this. It's not finished implementing, so it's really a very, very early preview. And the last thing for me, we're going to revamp default CSS, make it way smaller, remove everything that doesn't make sense in DNN anymore. There's a lot of old core modules that still have their CSS in there, so that's going to shrink it by a lot. And moving everything that is not global to the place where it belongs. So everything for the journal is in default CSS. It's going to move to the journal. It doesn't belong default CSS. Most people don't even use the journal. So a massive cleanup there. And then the team will also be able to use those CSS variables. And now I'll let David talk about the theme.
Yep, there's going to be a theme that uses the CSS variables.
Exactly. Nobody have a new.
No, with the theme, the big thing there is, and I think we've covered this in other meetings in more detail, but in general, it has no dependency on any external CSS framework or any kind of JavaScript library or anything like that. So it's frameworkless, which allows us to maintain it better moving forward and address any findings as we do new releases of DNN. We're able to maintain this properly because, as many of you know, like the one that is the current latest and greatest theme is Exilion. Well, it's stuck on Bootstrap 3. Well, the reason is because if we went to Bootstrap 4, it would break everybody's content that's using that. So we can't, we're kind of landlocked there. So this kind of removes that, in addition to all the benefits of being able to leverage the new CSS color styles, the variables that Daniel was mentioned earlier. And also it becomes, whether people will embrace this or adopt it is yet to be seen, but the idea is that this theme can actually be used as a theme development tool moving forward. So that's kind of a new concept in DNN, even though people have used copies of themes before to create, like a copy of Exilion, for instance, to create a custom theme. You can do that, but it's not really a build system, so to speak. It's a lot of flat files, and you have to really know what you're doing to do this. This will have a nice build system in it using rollup.js that's very fast and cool. And you can even do things like browser sync and see live reloads and that kind of thing in it. So it can be used as a tool to develop your own custom themes based on designs that you've designed.
Excellent. Well, we've spent the discussion.
Ryan, I apologize. I was on mute. I want to make one note because David, you brought up something I think we've failed to tell the community a ton. The base theme, this new theme that's being done, should people actually use that theme as their real theme for their website?
Right.
They should not.
Okay, so how would they use it?
But they can.
How would they use it
as a starter to create their own thing?
Exactly. So please, 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 this is the one thing. This is why we haven't been able to update some of the prior themes. Is we would break people, and we know that a lot of people have just been, oh, the default theme is this. I'm just gonna go change this. Make a copy. Get yourself ready for going forward, because it is something that not only limits us, but it also puts you at risk when you're going to do an upgrade, because those files, that default theme, will get blown away when you do updates. And Alessandra, I just love it.
So Mitch, I mean, it's interesting you brought this up, because there's actually, you're going to have one thing that is appealing to people that don't know that they shouldn't use or modify Exilion to, or whatever other theme like this to create their own. They can, because the original source files are there. Whereas in the new DNN theme, it's going to be minimized and optimized and stuff by default on the output of it. So it's not going to be as tempting to try to use it, because you're going to have a really hard time using it. It's not going to have the original SAS files and things like that. It'll have minified CSS and all that. So by nature, it probably will not be quite as appealing for people to try to do that.
Use it.
So they'll have to learn the system, so to speak, to be able to create their own themes using it, which is, I think, good all around. So
yeah, it sounds like that's the intent of it, is to the fact that it's pushing you to need to do that is an element, but it's also built with that as the intention more than any of the other ones have been previous.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we have spent the discussion so far talking about DNN as a system and features of DNN, stability of DNN, scalability of DNN. Let's talk about using DNN. We have this segue of talking about the theme and what we can expect, going forward. But let's talk with Marco and David a little bit as designers and integrators, and the theme is a good place to start. But let's talk about your feelings on the flexibility of DNN and using DNN overall as an application development platform. Marco, why don't we start with you and just talk a little bit about design and flexibility and some of the things you feel that you've been able to do with DNN.
Sure, Ryan. Well, from our view of things and how we run projects on the agency, the flexibility that DNN provides when it's time to implement a specific requirement that the client has, especially content related, where the client has a content he doesn't, or he or she doesn't know how they're going to publish that content, but they want to rely on us to make that decision for them and propose a design or a structure to show that information on the website. Well, DNN, like I said before, allow us to focus on the quality, on the message, and not worry so much about JavaScript, about CSS, about dependencies, even though, we're not in 10 yet. And I believe 10 is going to be way more efficient for us because we have to pretty much get rid of all of that noise in the middle. But it's flexible enough that allow us to focus again our time on the key things that make our clients decide to work with us. They don't worry about most of my clients. They are not technical wise. I do have a couple of companies, software solution related, but most of them are not technological people. So they just need a website. And having DNN as the back end of the website itself, well, it allow us to focus on things that most people wouldn't have time to do it because you have to do some more technical stuff around it to show something. But with DNN, you have so many different opportunities. And just like a side note on this matter, if you get to a problem and you need assistance, you do get the assistance because I do have a lot of friends that work on the same thing as I do, and they use on other platforms, other platforms to develop websites. And at the end of the day, on certain subjects, they get to a dead end. There's no solution, there's not a reply, there's not a step by step. So, I believe that on design matter, DNN it's flexible enough that it allows us to do stuff quick. We have different options. We don't only have one. We can decide which module or which approach we're gonna do. And on top of that, it give us the space to, focus on the client, give them high quality service, focus on what they need, on what they have to tell us, and just, do the technical part quick and easy.
And I think finishing a thought you were describing there, if you get stuck at the end of the day, you don't finish without a solution. You finish by being able to talk to people, right?
Actually, well, it's very nice that you just say that because one thing that I wanna share with everybody here is that you're in contact with the people who actually build stuff, right? It's not like you have a wall in front of you and you are not allowed to talk to them. And the people behind the DNN platform modules, everything, it's so approachable and they are welcoming. So in a personal experience, a couple of months, we have to migrate a blog that we developed using Open Content module. And we have to move it to a newer version of the platform, the same client, but we just, update the content. And the client wanted to do so many changes on content that we just come up with a fresh new install and migrate the module, the blog. But we did have some problems doing the migration. But I went into the forums, created the topic. I got a response from Timo, and all of a sudden, in less than 24 hours, I was on a Zoom meeting with him, showing him the module, and he was actually guiding me and showing me not only how to do it correctly and solve the problem, but also showing me all this, so many other features that the module has. And you don't get that. And I'm sorry to say that, but in other scenarios, in other platforms, you need to do more than just making a topic on a forum to get that kind of support. So, it's amazing how responsive, the people behind DNN and the community itself, it's for everybody around, right?
Well said. Well said. David, how about you for the topic of flexibility of DNN as an application platform?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons why we use DNN. It's so incredibly open and flexible and extensible, right? So, and I'll throw out a few crazy scenarios that we've used DNN for. Of course, there's the normal things of, you've got a site that needs to be highly custom designed and purpose built for the content strategies you have in place. Of course, it's really good for that because of the theme extendability and the ability to really put in the content in a structured way and so forth, leveraging other tools. That's great. That's the norm, right? But we've done some crazy stuff like, okay, we just need it as a back end, as a headless system for a mobile app platform that, we really need to run. That's great. It works fantastic and almost flawlessly there for that. We've even done crazy things like doing physical wayfinding booths. Ryan, you know what I'm talking about
Yeah,
here
I love it.
locally, where there's these screens sitting out there. Well, that's running DNN in those screens, and doing a wayfinding solution, but DNN's being used at the back end as that, and
Mhm.
really, really neat. So just about anything that you can come up with, integration with other platforms and all that. It is a great, great baseline for app development in any shape, form, or fashion that I can dream of.
Mhm, mhm. Well, we've kind of all of us here tonight have run businesses and started businesses that are depending on DNN. We've benefited from the ability to utilize DNN as a platform for our projects, for customer sites, or for sites and systems that we've either been called in to work on or inherited. Why don't we spend just a moment talking about that just a little bit? Marco, you were speaking a moment ago. Let's go back to you. How you've used DNN. It's allowed you to establish your business and to focus on making clients happy, right?
Yes. Happy, very happy, actually. Well, my history is short term. Like you mentioned at the beginning, I own a small digital agency here in Costa Rica, and we pretty much provide web design services to clients. And then once we publish their content websites, we just focus on give them support on marketing, digital marketing services using Google Ads, Facebook Ads, email marketing, and so on. But one of the things that people look for us right now, and it's funny, because it wasn't intended to be that way, but well, thankfully it is. Um, since DNN give us so much space to focus on the stuff that makes us different from our competition and focus on clients, um, we've been able to, from almost 100 clients that we currently own and that we currently manage, sorry, We've been able to position more than 50% of those clients on the first page of Google, for example, down here in Costa Rica. So we have a lot of businesses coming in now asking us to do the same that we did for that other business. And like Dave said before, knowing that the everything that's behind all that scenario, it's DNN, you know. Obviously for SEO, there's so many different factors, but the platform that allows you to do all the things that you need to do in order to comply and in order to make the best of each of the pages that you're going to publish from your website, well, it definitely gives you that opportunity. So right now, we have a small agency. We're developing websites only using DNN. If a client comes and it happens a couple of times already and ask us, Marco, we want you to manage our website. If it's developed with another CMS, the only solution we have for that is that we have to start from scratch because we're not gonna do that. But that's our case. That's my decision. But it's because we know that we know what we have. When you know what you have, you treasure that, you take care of that, and we know that having DNN as the backup for the agency on regards to websites, it's something that we can definitely not worry about. Other than making sure that DNN is the latest. It allow us to make the company grow and continue growing, offering the service and offering a high quality service, and everything is thanks to having DNN in the back. So I couldn't be happier, honestly, because the agency has 13 years now. And I remember when I made the decision, like if it's yesterday, and I was like looking around CMSs, and everybody knows the most popular ones and everything. But in my case, my background is .NET. When I was developer, all my experience was .NET, web forms and crystal reports and all that stuff, right? So when I decided which CMS use, well, in that moment was an easy decision once I found DNN because it had everything that I need. So I couldn't be happier, like I said, and I'm definitely looking forward to keep developing websites using DNN and making the community and making the whole ecosystem stronger every year, so we can grow as a community.
Marco has definitely already contributed to the community, and as a showcase of someone new coming into the community to talk about how DNN has made an impact. You're already giving back, which is excellent. We'll kind of finish our meeting talking about that. But do, if you're watching this or in our links later, be sure to check out the previous SoFri meetings where Marco came in and for example, gave a whole presentation on keyword generation and working within DNN and with ChatGPT to work on keyword generation and pull those things together. Surely that was part of your success story with those clients and getting on their first page rankings. David, how about you? Your turn. Let's talk about your success stories and utilizing DNN as a platform there. You talked a little bit a minute ago with some examples with headless CMS. How about that for really starting and establishing your business with DNN at the core?
Yeah, I may be in the minority here a little bit as far as our business go, because you don't see DNN mentioned really anywhere on our website or any of our marketing on that. But as y'all know, I mean, the DNN is pretty much the core of what we do on things. So it's been vital. It's just that it doesn't matter at the end of the day to our clients, right? Whether or not it's called DNN or My Cool CMS, they're just looking for a business solution that works and that is dependable, and DNN has provided that for us. And I mean, I would say that's a huge part of our success is that we haven't had to worry about some of the things that have happened in other, platforms over the years. I can count on one hand the number of major things that's happened in the DNN, history, right? That were painful, and that's hard to say with any other platform. So it's been a huge part of the success, I believe, is just making a decision on a solid foundation, which is DNN.
Excellent, excellent. Mitch, how about you and Iowa Computer Gurus?
I don't even know. I don't know that I have a great answer, right? It's all things in different scenarios. It's nothing different than what others have done. I think we have some scenarios where people have no idea what they're using. We have others that come looking for it. We get a lot of, we do so much with people that are already in the platform looking for assistance. That's what we end up having a lot of. I mean, we have new sites, but it's either with people that have already been there, right? And that kind of thing. So, it's fairly similar story. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if we touched on this, but DNN is good for a mom and pop shop just as much as it is good for enterprise or government level, stuff that has heavy requirements. And I think that speaks volumes. People say, well, what space does DNN live in? Well, I mean, it's not really a particular target segment like that. I mean, where does it thrive the most? Well, wherever it's used, in my opinion. It's not for the small or medium or large or enterprise business. It's all of them.
One of the things that I'll mention to clients when we're talking about DNN, like you said, not everyone knows or understands what platform they're in. They just know that they're using a system. But I'll begin by just expressing that back in 2012, the U.S. Department of Defense, the DoD, made a statement and a choice that from that point forward, all outward facing website systems that they were managing and maintaining were going to be on DNN. They have, the DoD has their own version or flavor of DNN. And when you find websites like the Marines.mil, the Army and Air Force websites, the VA Veterans Hospital, these government organization websites, they're all based in DNN. And that choice was a choice of stability and a choice of infrastructure that was behind that. But going forward, you'll see DNN used heavily in corporations, in government, as we were describing, small town and incorporation utilities and town management sites. There's a lot of inroads within government as a whole, but then there are corporations, entrepreneurs, web developers using it to build their clients' websites. There's not, like David was saying, there's not really a specific vertical that uses DNN more than anything else. There's just a lot of it out there.
And to connect with what David said, that it says good for mom and pop shop, then like big enterprise and stuff, that kind of connects with how I started with DNN, because I was developer of non-web and then a little bit of web, but doing everything from scratch until I got my first request to build e-commerce. Let's start simple. So I live in Quebec, and here the tax rules are and they used to be very different than anywhere else in the world, where you pay your country taxes, do another subtotal, and then you pay your state taxes. So you pay taxes on the taxes. And I couldn't find anything existing that would do that. And the one I found was Catalog, which supported compound taxes and localization, because we needed this in multiple languages. And okay, cool. So that's how I got into DNN. And then I just fell in love with it. And at that point, I was trying to do everything, including the others that we can't name, or we could get sued or get 8% of our money taken away from us. So I was trying to do everything, and I was always preferring DNN. And it took me years to realize, why do I do the others? Because the DNN brings me like the complex stuff I do on DNN, but the simple stuff I can also do with DNN. So why am I going to be supporting all kinds of things instead of specializing? And that's why I do DNN now. It's like it's good for all scenarios that comes to me.
Well said. Well said.
Mm.
Well, another pivot. Let's talk a little bit about DNN support and the community and help. As we've mentioned a few times, that there's a few times already we've talked about the community being helpful and approachable. Let's talk about some of those places where we run across the DNN community, such as our conferences. We have the DNN Summit conference that is here in the United States. There have been plenty of user group conferences or different names for different events in the past, such as Day of DNN and DNN Con. But the modern conference that's held annually now is DNN Summit. We are at the 6th year of DNN Summit, 7th year of DNN Summit. But here on the meeting tonight, we do have several people from the DNN Association, the board who runs the DNN Summit event. Mitch, do you want to talk just for a minute about what comes together in DNN Summit and what types of things people have available in our structure? And in a moment, David, I'll pass it to you to describe the differences there with the UK side with DNN Connect. So as a US side conference, Mitch, can you describe what some people will see when they come to DNN Summit?
Yeah, so this year we are doing a hybrid event. So for those that are not able to make it in person for us in Las Vegas, they will have the ability to see the primary sessions. All will be streamed via the Hopin platform, which is the same thing we've used for the virtual platform the last couple of years. But for those that are able to join us in person, we will be at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. We have a nice event space up on the second floor there. We'll have 3 breakout rooms for the sessions. Most likely, we will end up having a welcome reception on Sunday evening for those that want to come around, appetizers, drinks. We have breakfast and then an opening keynote. And then I believe it's going to be 4 sessions the rest of the day on Monday. Probably do a welcome kind of party reception thing on Monday evening. Tuesday, similar thing from a schedule perspective. Historically, the big thing with the in-person events, and I think the big reason why a lot of folks want us to get back in person is, don't get me wrong, the sessions are great and the sessions will be available. And if you can't make it to all of them, you'll be able to go back and access those recordings if you're a paid attendee. But it is, as Alessandra mentioned, the gossip. It's the conversations. It's the hallway conversations. Hey, what did you run into? Hey, how did what was your experience with this? Hey, I saw you built this website. How did you accomplish it? The amount of things that happen at these events that are, troubleshooting, business development or otherwise, depending on what we get from a number of attendees perspective, I am tossing around the idea of trying to get a business roundtable put together as well. That would be something that wouldn't be live streamed, but really to kind of do something we did a number of years ago to really be able to pull people together and really try to just get some general information. So, whatever we can do there to get the collaboration. Here in the US, we seem to get a lot of people from all different experiences with DNN. So we do have people that are just regular users, not even power users, that just are looking to better leverage the tools that they have. And then we have everybody up to, really detailed, heavy integrators and everywhere in between. So we have something for everybody. One thing that I know can be intimidating for those that have maybe never been to an in-person event is a lot of us know each other. A lot of us have known each other for, at this point, longer than we probably care to admit. We're not scary. We don't bite. You may hear stories about things that have happened in the past, and feel free to just tell us to shut up and move on.
And they may or may not be true. fully.
Yeah, most of them are, but the thing is though, is like it is a very welcoming community, right? That's what brought me to the community. I actually got introduced to the community with the very first, what was DNN Connections event in Las Vegas in 2007.
The Microsoft / DNN conference that
Mhm.
was in Las Vegas. That was 2010?
2007.
2007. Okay. Yeah.
2007, I co-presented with Philip Beadle, as a name we probably haven't seen in 15 years, or so. But yeah, no, I mean, so it's a great event. Collaboration is there. It's great to get everybody together. There's definitely some of us that have known each other for a long time, but we want to make sure that,
Yeah.
interrupt us, come in,
Well,
ask questions. We are might be like a family reunion for some, but it's even better the new people that we meet.
Well, for DNN Summit, that's in Las Vegas in February 2025. That is a US style convention. There is business networking, there are sponsors, there are speakers who are giving sessions and presentations, and there's more of a formal business focus and structure. Let's then hear from David. Tell us a little bit about the difference of the approach and the presentation of something like the DNN community for the event for DNN Connect, and the way it's different for how people experience it.
Yep, I think there's a lot that is similar. The content is fairly similar. It may be a little bit more dev focused, a little bit more deeper dive into things, some work
Longer
sessions and
sessions
so
too.
forth. About the same, about an hour session each, a little bit less than that. But I think less sessions in general for that. It's usually a little bit more time built in for some social activities and things like that. So everything from just getting out into nature. It's usually in a beautiful location. It's been in Switzerland. It's been in Spain. It's been different places. I'm not even remembering all the places that it's been. But it's been going on for a long time as well. I think the very first event there was probably, it definitely predates DNN Summit, but
Yes.
I don't think it
20
doesn't predate
2012
Day
or
of DNN
2013.
or Day of
Yeah.
.NET Nuke or anything like that, but it was a long time ago, and I think it was just a few people that got together with near Peter Donker's place, and it really kind of started as a, hey, we're in this community together, let's get together and let's just talk shop a bit. So you get a lot of that. There's a lot of opportunities to mingle and learn and throw off ideas of each other, and really just kind of build some camaraderie and relationships that way. But yeah, it's great as well. It's just probably not quite as formal as like a DNN summit would be.
Yeah, my perception is it's a little bit more personal, a little bit more of a vacation destination, and then an enjoyable time spent with friends in the same community.
Including meals together. So if you haven't been to one, please try to make one because you don't know what you're missing. It's fantastic.
Well, as we reach here the end of our time for the meeting, we've covered a lot of different topics. We've talked about the DNN community there. Marco kind of alluded to all the different places that you can go to get help and to communicate with people. If we talked about formal events, I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention that we have user groups. We obviously here have the Southern Fried DNN User Group, but you can also reach individuals both on the dnncommunity.org community website, where there are the forums for asking questions. There are blog posts that are being posted by community members that you can interact with and post information back to. We also, though, have our Discord server where people are often turning that on in the beginning of the day and leaving it open. So you will find that if you're there and hanging out, you can get some pretty immediate answers and tips and suggestions. So when we post videos like this meeting. We'll post links to all of those locations for dnncommunity.org and to the link and invitation to the Discord server. Correct me if I'm wrong, David, though. I believe those are all available from the DNN community website, that there are links there that you can also reach the location for Discord from that location as well, right?
Right.
All right.
And if you join Discord, there's also events that show up there. And every Friday, I do we do a co-coding session, a couple hours every Friday, where we get together to code. But sometimes people join, they're not even coding, they're just hanging out with us. Steve is one of them that often comes to offer moral support and jokes and cats. So yeah, it's a fun little hangout that also involves coding and working together.
All right. Well, parting question to pass out to the group. I'll go back in that reverse order again. Then, what's something that you're excited about seeing for the DNN and the DNN community in 2025 and ahead? Mitch?
10.0 release. That's
Hey, you stole my answer. Come on.
Hey, man, come
Hey,
on,
I
man.
got to go first.
Same answer.
Really though, I mean the 10.0 release is huge. There's a lot of other things that I think we have good. I am absolutely looking forward to the in-person event and getting back to see folks again. But the 10.0 release is huge for us from a community perspective. It's a very major release, a very large release, and one of the first ones that's been, completely community driven. So definitely looking forward to getting that done and going.
All right, David?
No, Mitch already took my answer. Oh, that's it.
We've got theme improvements.
Seriously, I am looking forward to the DNN 10 release, but really the reason is because I'm excited about some of the new and fresh things that are coming in it. I mean, I know we've touched on these and other things, but there's some incredible features that are coming, not just the thing we talked about earlier in the CSS variables and all the design system there and the DNN elements, but there's also workflow and there's granular permissions and there's was the API tokens. There's more dependency injection capabilities for those developing. I mean, there's just some amazing things that are gonna be in there, and really excited about seeing what that does to put a wonderful tool even much more wonderful into people's hands.
Marco, how about you?
Well, my answer is part of what Mitch already said. Well, waiting, for 10, obviously. But in my personal case, I'm definitely looking forward for DNN Summit. I've been using DNN for more than 13 years, and I'm waiting for February the 3rd to shake hands with so many people I've been chatting and talking and sharing. And it's the event for me next year. So I'm definitely looking forward for DNN Summit.
That is excellent. I think many
Marco,
of us are.
Marco, didn't you show up for the last DNN Summit in-person event that ended up being like 3 people or something?
The one we did not have in 20.
I actually went
23?
to Las Vegas, but I did something totally different.
Well, I'll open up the same question to those who are joining us here tonight. In lieu of kind of community questions and answers, we don't have a lot of time left, but I'd love to pass that question off to Daniel and to the others who are on. I know that I've seen Aaron in the list. Alessandra's been in some of the chats and comments. I don't know if Mark is still on. Steve is there. Let's have each of you come on and describe what's something that you're excited about seeing for DNN and for the DNN community in 2025. Aaron, let's start with you.
I thought I could get away with lurking. I guess not. I mean, I'm definitely excited about the summit, big time. I know that's already been said, but I've done a few of the speaking sessions, but to
Mhm.
do it in person for first time ever will be really fun, I think, because I started in like 2006 and I've only been to DNN Connect 2016. So I haven't been to the
Oh,
stateside
wow.
one yet. So should be interesting to finally meet everyone in person
Looking
first
forward to it
time.
for sure. Daniel, how about you? You're next, and then after that,
So,
Alessandro, you're up after Daniel.
so of course, I'm excited for the next two conferences that have been announced. Both of them, um, they're different, but they're similar in more ways than we can think. But yeah, a lot of people that we talk to every day or every week, but we see only a few years, and that's going to be very cool. And DNN 10, of course. So like all the free time I get for open source kind of tries to move this a little bit forward and get that out the door. So I'm very excited for when we get to that step.
Absolutely. Alessandra, how about you? And then Mark, who will be up next. Alessandra?
Questions. I'm actually excited because, I don't know if you noticed this about me, but I like chatting. I know it's not everybody that realizes that, but I actually find it quite nice to get to people. When people come and ask me questions, I'm thinking, why do people think I know things? And it's actually very rewarding when I can help some people,
People. Mhm.
with stuff. There you go.
Alessandra,
Get the next person, go away.
Alessandra, that's a good point, though.
But
That
yeah, looking
you're
forward to it. Really looking forward to it and drinks.
Alessandra, it's a good point, though. You're a designer. You work within DNN, and you mentioned that one of the things you enjoy is an opportunity with what you know, being able to help someone else that you meet at the convention, and that is a big part of the in-person events.
I actually, being front-end developer, I always feel like I love to think I'm the smartest person in the room. And it's not possible to do that when you have these people around you. Because they're like, I'm a bit smart, but I am not that smart. So, but frequently, more ways than ever, more times than not, I had people that are like backend development, working under the hood and whatever, and they go like, "Wow, this is what you did with the CSS was amazing," and I'm like, "What? They're talking about? Everybody knows that, and they know, but they don't work with that." So yeah,
There's
maybe
different types of smarts. Nobody is expert
Getting
at everything.
yeah. So I'm color smart apparently. So there you go.
getting
I
help
make
from
things look
everyone is a big
pretty.
part of it. Mark, how about you? And then Steve, you're up next
But
after.
Mark said he was not available to talk right now. So.
He didn't have microphone availability. All right. Well, how about you, Steve?
Well, obviously DNN 10, but I really, really appreciate the fact that there is the online component for the conference this February, because the web stuff is kind of a small part of what I do, and I just can't justify traveling for it. But just to hear all the really great people talk about the stuff, and also just feeling more a part of the community going to it. So I really appreciate being able to experience it virtually.
That's well said. Excellent. Excellent. Well, we are coming to the end of our Southern Fried User Group meeting time. We normally wrap up here at around 8 o'clock, and we're in perfect time for that. Thank you to the panel who joined today and was available for a litany of questions about the nature of using DNN and the choices to begin and continue using DNN in 2024 and ahead 2025 and into the future. Thank you very much, Mitch Sellers, for joining us, David Poindexter, and Marco Aliverdo for joining us. I really appreciate you coming on to speak tonight. Stay tuned or join us again for Southern Fried DNN User Group meetings in the future, because we have these types of sessions regularly. We bring on speakers to either talk about specific modules or specific issues or approaches to solving problems or to building solutions within DNN. So we'd love to have you back for this meeting, as we always do it on the third Thursday of every month. The next one coming up in December is our special end of the year party. So on that December, I believe 19th, we'll be having our fan favorite DNN Jeopardy back up again for our game show edition. So come join us for some fun for that event if you're able to join us real time. And if not, you can play at home and shout at the screen when people are trying to answer these DNN themed questions for DNN Jeopardy. David, anything else we should mention here as we close out our Southern Fried meeting?
I think if anybody's interested in presenting in 2025, please let us know, because we'll go ahead and start scheduling those out. It gives you plenty of time to prep. So I'm looking at everybody that's on this call. Okay. Mitch, yep, Marco, and Aaron. Yeah, it's time again.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone who joined us in person tonight. And thank you, everyone, for watching those playbacks afterwards. We appreciate you. Bring us your questions and comments and DNN ideas, and we'll cover them in SoFri in the future. Thank you very much, all. Good night.
Great night.
Good night, guys.
Good
Never been.
night.